You're listening to the VMJPod's Employee Brand Series. I'm David Machoka, and joining me for this special Sydney edition is Brie Mason. Together, we're unpacking what's really working in employee brand today, from fresh ideas to actions driving real change inside leading organisations.
Welcome to the VMJPod series where we're unpacking employer brand. We're talking all things employer brand. I'm David Machoka.
I'm Brie Mason from AMP.
And I'm Rachel Mehlan from AstraZeneca.
And we are going to be unpacking something that people do experience in starting a new role and how to get started as an employer brand so you can quickly hit the ground running. I'm really interested in unpacking this.
So am I.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me. So yes, Rachel Mehlan. I'm currently talent acquisition and management lead at AstraZeneca. Been around the block. I've been in recruitment for about 25 years. And I've worked for a real range of different companies. So small tech startups, big global consulting firms, financial services. Employer brand's always been a red thread through all of those roles, just by accident, I guess, in the early stages and more purposeful towards sort of recent day. But very excited to be here.
Yeah. This is going to make for a really good episode because people do start new roles and a lot of people don't know what employee brand does, particularly if it's a first hire. There are lots of first hire employee branders. So in this episode, we're really going to be unpacking how to hit the ground running. Just curious to know your thoughts. You're relatively new at AstraZeneca, so it's probably something that's close to your heart.
Fresh and known.
Yeah,
Fresh experience to pull from.
So what are a couple of things that just have to be mindful of when you first start to make a real impact?
Yeah, I think one of the key things to really unpack, particularly when you're new to an industry, is what's going on in that industry. So people talk about, I've heard a lot of people reference really get under the hood of the strategy, but I guess to sort of go one level deeper, what that means is really understand, the economic, the social, the financial impacts to that industry, because ultimately that's going to impact the labor force and what that company needs or, who they're looking for. So I think the first thing is really understand the overall business strategy and the goals. And then from there, you can align on, obviously, how employer brand will ladder up to that first and foremost.
Amazing. How do you go about understanding that?
So certainly when I've done this before, I've just gone and met as many people as I possibly could. Start sort of bottom up, save all your big meetings with important people for much later on until you can sound articulate about the strategy, what's going on, what the pain points are. So I usually just start with every single different group within the business and just go and meet them for coffee and go and find out who's got to say what about what's going on. But then equally, you can talk to some of your key stakeholders. So people in comms, people in marketing, people in corporate affairs, or the heads of the business, just go and sort of meet them and just have some of those initial chats in terms of what's going on for them, what's keeping them up at night, what are their pain points.
Do you find that they understand what employee brand do? Or do you feel like you have to educate them?
Very good question. So honestly, no. I think even people in marketing, even people in comms, when you start talking about employer brand, they just glaze over and they don't really know what it means. So what I've found is you have to talk their language in a way. So you have to, there's keywords that they use. There's different reports and data and metrics that they use in their particular roles. So I think the key there is really to understand what's going in their world and how they communicate, and then sort of play it back to them in that vein.
Yeah.
Who's the sector that you feel most aligned with that understand who employee brand actually is, and when do you approach them to go, ta-da, I'm here?
I think that really varies across different industries, but certainly your marketing, your brand, your corporate comms, they would be more familiar with the concepts. Hiring managers don't really understand it. HR don't really understand it. So yes, you've got a really hard job to do, and just trying to understand or talk about it in terms of what matters to them. So for hiring managers, we might want to recruit people faster, or we might want better quality people. And so we talk about workforce planning or attraction or retention, all of these kind of themes. That's buttoned up in employer brand recruitment marketing, but it's using the language that they use rather than employer brand, because nobody knows what that means. I found. Maybe they do, but I found in a business, nobody really knows outside of employer brand. Yeah.
And how do you then explain to them what we do and the benefit of having someone like yourself?
I think I don't talk about videos and content and stories and LinkedIn likes. I don't talk about all of those, outputs. I talk more about the outcomes. So, if we write an authentic people story and use it to promote a job ad, we will get much better. We will get a higher number of applications, for example. Or if we use some content about the business, we'll get applications faster, or we'll get people that are already aligned with the company because they like what we do. We don't have to go and sell that business. So it's very much talking about the impact of that individual, not the actual sort of the channel that we use to achieve that result.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on partnering early with like internal comms or other parts of the business? Who are the people within business that you really need to form an alliance with quickly to bring them along for the journey?
Yeah, I think it's mainly not the heads of the business, it's the people that do all the hiring. So they're the people you would align with. But then to answer your question, corporate affairs, corporate affairs, brand, they are the people that you need to align with quite quickly. We always hear that the brand are the blockers, and they're the ones that own all the social channels. So I think a good idea is to really empathize and understand what they do. I'm fortunate that I've got a lot of friends that work in marketing, and when we're in the pub, we're always talking about the challenges of their role and the frustrations in their role. So whatever we're experiencing in employer brand in terms of trying to prove tangible results or trying to prove return on investment and budget, they have that on a much bigger scale because they have bigger budgets. And I think marketing is a function that everything gets thrown at. It's like, okay, marketing can do this. So they get a bit frustrated by people giving them more work. So I think if you say to them, you understand their role and what they're there to do for the business, but equally, it's not about giving them more work. And you need to explain, I'm not giving you more work. I just want to know what the guardrails are. I want to know maybe what's our social media strategy and how can the work I do ladder up to one of those pillars potentially, or out of our tone of voice or our brand, what are the key things that I really need to look out for? So I think it's really just educating yourself in that whole space, so they trust you and they go, I know that person's not going to go rogue, or I know that they're going to come and ask my advice before they do anything. And I think once you have that relationship, then the journey is a lot smoother. I find that the younger people in marketing teams are the ones that often have the ear of the more senior people that make the decisions, because often they come from agencies, they're new in corporate, they've got all the fresh ideas. So if you're trying to advocate for a new idea, they might be the best people that you can talk to, rather than sort of going head on yourself. Use these people to get to get the ear of the more senior people in the department.
I'm curious, obviously your role is it predominantly talent acquisition management, employer brand as well?
Correct, yeah.
2 big jobs.
2 very big jobs.
3 big jobs.
For a very big company.
Very big company.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Well, she's so clever and smart.
Well, yes.
There's 2 of her.
Can I explain? Well, I guess Australia AstraZeneca is relatively small compared to global AstraZeneca, and so we have about 1,000 employees. Our employer brand team is a global function, and we do have a lot of great resources where we can create the content ourselves, which is a really nice thing about having a a global company and those resources. So we use Adobe Express. We have lots of templates, and we can go in there and sort of resize, reproduce content. So that's really helpful. That's really, really nice.
So that is one of the things that to look out for when you do join an organisation. If you're lucky enough to land in a global role, making the most of the assets that already exist. But I'm assuming there could be a bit of a challenge in that language from time to time. Do you resonate with is it a bit of a pit that you can, or a trap that you can fall into, relying on content that is more suited to abroad as opposed
Global.
to
as opposed to being locally relevant?
And I have noticed that about when you sort of go in and you do your audit and you look at how your careers website or your content presents, there is that risk with a global company that it can have that quite distant feeling. So what I've done in the first 6 months at AstraZeneca is actually just go and get some employee photos taken. So anytime I hear we're doing a photo shoot, it's like, can I come? Can I give you some ideas? And now within a very quick sort of 3 months, we've got some really nice photos of our employees in different roles that we're going to start using. We haven't started using them yet, but we're going to start using them on our local assets just to make the imagery just feel a bit more authentic, I guess, to Australia.
Because that's the global local conflict of I've been on both sides, being a global brand manager, but then also on the other side of having to use the global resources and try to localize. And sometimes it can work really well, but sometimes it can be a challenge around it not being right for our market, be it maybe the value proposition isn't right for the Australian market, or very much doesn't translate the look and feel to this market.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I think the narrative that we have is it can be sort of trailed through different countries, but certainly the imagery is very different, and we know Australia is quite unique in that respect. So it's great that we have those resources now to use.
Yeah. There's enough. It's employer brand can be very much be a full-time job. It can be, as with some of the guests I've spoken to, like teams of people working on employer brand, and we've discussed with other people like the difference in skills, because often we see that someone who's in a TA role is then tasked with employer brand, and sometimes you can see why it doesn't work, because it's a completely different skill. How do you have both skills?
I think, back in the day when I was a recruiter and I didn't want to do recruiting anymore, I went and did a sort of marketing brand course at TAFE. It was actually an events and sponsorship. I thought I wanted to be an event manager. And then shortly after completing that, I started doing really well in recruitment. So I'm like, well, I'm going to sort of cash in the dividends now. I'm not going to go and do events, which is really hard work. And as I stuck with recruiting, the employer brand recruitment marketing work just seemed to become a lot more prevalent. Yeah. So obviously when a lot of the tech boom or the tech startups, they were some of the first companies that really got on that employer brand pathway. So it all just seemed to merge together. So I guess I've always had this creative element. I never wanted to do recruitment. I ended up in recruitment, and I've been doing it for a really long time. But I wonder now if I chose a different path, would I perhaps chosen marketing or brand as a career instead of ending up in recruitment like many of us do?
Probably.
Yeah.
So for those who are just starting a role and they've been tasked to do a whole bunch of things, because there's lots to do in employee brand, you can be part of the candidate experience. You could have initiatives to drive applications through recruitment marketing. You could be the custodian of the brand and test an internal EVP or amplify.
Create an EVP.
What advice would you give to people who are starting a new role and they're just looking at the list and they're like, oh my God, it is so long. Do you think there's a real art in just saying no or parking things for a little while?
Yeah, I don't think it's not about saying no. I think it's going back to that, working out what's important to the business. So everything ladders up to, what are the business goals? Where do they need? Where do they need to be? Are they growing? And are they growing by new products? Are they growing by acquisition? Their sales teams need to grow so they can hit their target. So where are they actually? What are the key priorities in the business? And then how can you sort of do activity around that? So I think that's a really key thing. as that list comes in and people are going, do a LinkedIn post and do this and make this, you can kind of just park anything that's not laddering up to that impact. So I think it's really key that you almost have a bit of a roadmap very quickly and say, right, I can see these are the key business priorities from a talent perspective. These are the things that are really going to, I hate that word, but move the needle in terms of adding value. And so people can, and obviously value that people can really see. So there's no point you doing all these wonderful posts and it's not actually, it doesn't have a call to action. So it's not adding to a talent pool, or it's not creating more applications to a role that you traditionally find hard to recruit. So I think it's very quickly working out what that needs to be, and then you can align your to-do list from that. And I think sometimes when you go into a role, just do a quick audit of all the basics, like my job ads, the careers website, where are all the channels that potential candidates are going to, and just make sure that they're all tidy and they're not out of date and all the information's really correct. So these are some quick wins I think you can have in a very short space of time, just to start doing things that are showing what you're doing in your role.
Yeah. And at the time, obviously, you've got some great experience in this space. What are those things that you think that do move the needle the most, where people should be prioritising more time and effort?
I think one good thing is understanding the recruitment journey. Yeah. So it's sitting with the recruiters and understanding the real process from attraction right through to offer, and then understanding where potentially you're losing candidates, where is it broken, or where are there bottlenecks? Because again, once you know where that is, then you can start having impact at those particular areas. I would always just try not to do everything, because I think that's a risk. You're new, you want to impress, you've got loads of people sending you things, and you don't want to let anybody down. But it is almost just kind of taking a step back and going, okay, well, what can I do that's actually going to make a difference?
This episode is brought to you by VMJPod, the employee-generated content platform helping organizations tell their story through the voices of their people. Formerly known as VMJPod Job, VMJPod makes it simple to create once and repurpose everywhere. One employee video becomes blogs, quote cards, and social posts, all automatically edited, branded, and ready to share. Our AI-accelerated platform makes it easy to scale authentic storytelling, showcase your culture, and attract the right people. Ready to see what's possible? Visit VMJPod.co to learn more.
How important is it to understand the rhythm and routine of an organisation, those moments that really matter, or the recruitment cycles that they have?
I think it's a really, really important thing to get your head around in the first few months. I know in previous roles I've often seen internal posts or comments about big events that have gone on. It's like, I didn't know about that. If I'd known, I could have come along, I could have taken some photos, we could have created some content. So really important. And obviously throughout the year, there might be things like grad programs, there might be
seasonal hires,
key times in a year when you know you're going to get loads of turnover due to bonus payouts or whatever it might be. So just having a real understanding of what they are really helps, I guess, put your calendar together of what you can produce and what content that you're going to align with.
Who would know that information more so than others within a company? Or is it multiple people? Multiple people.
So in the past, it's been the comms team. They obviously do a lot. The brand team, the grad recruitment team. We had, I think it's how we had someone that did our community foundation. So that was a lot of work with our First Nations partners that we work with. So right across the company, really. It could even be individual teams. So I know if they're getting certain certification, then when a few people have that certificate, they celebrate that and take photos. So again, just knowing where to go in the building when all those things are happening. Outside of the normal events that I think people usually celebrate. So there's International Women's Day, Are You OK Day. They're very important, but I think everybody's doing that kind of content. So it's like, well, what else can we do to showcase who we are as an organisation and who our employees are?
How do you go about, I guess, getting some runs on the board and proving the value and impact of what we can do in investing in employer branding?
The quick win.
Like, yeah, or it's you're new to an organisation. Like, how do you quite quickly gain that respect to be able to showcase like the value, right?
There is a moment in time where you do have to showcase the value.
You do. You do.
I remember,
And continually, I think. Continually.
I remember at a previous company, someone said to me, Rachel, it's about how do you eat the elephant? Right? You start small. You don't try and eat the whole elephant. You just start with a little bit of the elephant. So I think it's finding a real pain point in the business. So and trying to solve it with as minimal budget and in as quick a space a time as possible. So I think back at Tao, we were recruiting a lot of claims, frontline claims consultants, and we were already one of the largest claims teams in Australia. And so trying to find different ways to get different sort of talent audience in was a real challenge. So we came up with an idea that we might actually approach like early talent. So usually we hire experienced claim staff. And we decided that there might be a talent pool in students that have studied allied health degrees but don't actually want to do allied health. So we basically did an EDM. We sent it to all the allied health students. Those platforms are great because they can measure the number of applications coming through. It's very time bound. So if you're talking about smart, it's very time bound and specific, and you can see in a very short space of time what the impact of that very small investment was. And I think out of that effort, it was about a month. We had some great content, and we got two or three people enroll that we never would have got because it was, an avenue that we'd never gone down. And then once we could see the results quite quickly, then, that was one hiring manager in a claims department of 30 or 40. So then that person was our advocate going, look, this really works. Like, next time you have a need for your particular fund, you can try it somewhere else. So I think that was an example of where you can get some quick wins on the board. It's not sort of because I think sometimes when you're trying to be strategic, you're trying to get everybody's buy-in, it just takes too long, and then you're there 6 months and you go, I've not really done anything, or I can't show anything I've done. So it's going, let me just do a few fast and quick things, and then at least people will know what I'm here to do, and they can see the impact of what my role is when nobody understands employee brand. And they think it's a nice to have, when really it's not. It's a business system that helps you get the right people on board.
What I really like about what you just mentioned is that you created a fan who then shares their story, and I think that is part of the process of making that ball roll quicker down the hill. It's really good advice.
The grad platform is another really good testing tool because it's timely, it's defined. You can sort of target it towards a certain audience. So.
Well, it's also very helpful as well because most companies have belonging as part of their initiative, so ethnicity, age and gender, and it just fills one of those gaps, doesn't it? If you're able to bring in, you just mentioned claims, experienced people, you've just brought in a new cohort within the group that just adds something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm one of the people who do get employer brand, and I'm hearing you talk through all the different things that you're doing, and that's just the employer brand stuff. Then there's recruitment, which there's obviously a lot of work to be done there. How do you go about, getting all that different type of work done? Is it yourself only, or do you pull in, do you leverage different people internally, externally? How do you get the support you need to do all these really broad ranging things?
It's difficult.
There's a lot. Yeah.
And it's interesting. There will always be people in the company who are quite passionate about this space. Yeah. I go to a platform like LinkedIn and I look at our employee trending content and I look at who's doing all the posts, who's more prevalent, and then go and make friends with them because they're the people that are doing it anyway. Yeah. And they're the people that get it as well. I think
from an employee perspective.
From an employee perspective,
okay, gotcha.
And I think the assumption I made when I first started in roles is that recruitment people love employer brand, they love social media, and they know what to do. And the reality is they're already really busy and they've already got lots to do, and they don't want more to do. So I think in that respect, sometimes it's actually about making it easy for them to post or to co-create and do things together, to your point, you just got to find those people that are actually interested in that space and then work with them to deliver what you need to.
Well, that's super interesting because as a new employer brander, you don't know anyone. Like you're making contact with people who you want to partner with, whether it be comms or the affairs team, or you've got hiring managers, but you really want to tell your stories. So how do you get connected to those people?
People, your ambassadors, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in a way. Sometimes when you're an individual contributor, it can be quite a lonely role because you don't have a team, to bounce off. But what I've learned throughout the years is just go and find people, go and sit in a different part of the office and plonk yourself down and just get involved in the vibe that's happening. And initially people kind of like, who are you? What are you here to do? And it's like, oh, this is what I do. And then people are kind of interested. And there's always somebody that wants their photo taken or, they see a photographer, oh, can I join in? Like, yeah, sure, come in, as long as we can use it kind of thing.
Standing next to the water cooler, just
yeah.
taking it to the next level, isn't it?
But I think that's it. It's just, you really have to get outside of your own team and just get around the business, go to events. Company events, go and sit on different floors, join the social club, just do all the different things where you get to meet people naturally, not sending them an email going, hi, I'm employer brand. Can I come and get a story? I think it's just finding out more organically and naturally what a great story would be.
Yeah. When we've spoken to different guests around, what I'm always curious about is structure of employer brand teams, where they sit and who they partner with. And today we've spoken, we've learned about when you've got a role that's combined employer brand and internal comms. What would you say are the benefits of a role where it combines TA and employer brand?
It's so interesting, right? Because there's no right answer. And I've certainly seen just from the people that I know, there's no one size fits all, and having different combinations of it can just make the output so much more interesting and not all the same.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're from recruiting and you're employer brand, you've got to learn the marketing. And if you're a marketing and employer brand, you've got to learn the recruitment. So I think it's just about whatever gaps you've got, try and find people that can teach you that, or there's so much self-learning you can do now anyway. Just try and go and fill those gaps.
Do you find you have more of a strategic lens though when you're sitting down with a hiring manager? At the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, marketing to solve, not just like wheel and a hamster spinning. Well, the next rec's coming through. We just need to find the next person that comes in.
100%, yeah. And I think it's often finding the complexity is, particularly when you're new in a role, is usually when hiring managers need to hire, they need it yesterday. And so you don't have all this time to go, well, if I had the time, I would love to, sit there and write a strategy and think of a plan and create some stories that we can post over the next 4 months. But I guess the first time you're in the role, you can see what's required, and then you can start going, okay, well, next time you have this big influx of talent, then we can plan for that. I mean, we've just gone through a process at AstraZeneca where we've restructured all the territories, the sales territories. So all of a sudden we had something like 20 or 30 sales roles, but we just didn't have time to do all the more strategic stuff. We just had to get through the recs and get the roles filled. But in the new year, we'll have some downtime and we can really start thinking about how we can embed some of these employer brand recruitment marketing sort of strategies into that.
Yeah.
Going.
Because, I mean, I can just see the benefit of it, because I think obviously there's recruiting, obviously you can get, be talking to the hiring managers around more strategic sourcing and how alternative sourcing methods to how you're going to go about filling a role. But then you bring another lens again of actually that we can apply more of a marketing focus to this talent attraction. So it really is a really great offering for hiring managers.
Should always be reporting into employer brand.
Perhaps. The jury's still out. I'm still undecided.
Is that still a debate? Are people still asking that question?
Where it should sit.
Yeah.
And I think, there's never a right or wrong. It's what works for the organisation, right? And what their need is. And
And that's certainly what I've learned, is that every company is so different, and it's just really unpacking what it is in your company and then trying to work with that as best as you can.
Yeah. I actually, to be really honest, I spoke to a recruiter for your previous role at TAL. I was like approached about it and by a headhunter, and they're explaining what they needed, and I laughed and I said, "You're kidding! You can't get that in one person. That's a really broad person you're trying to find here. That's pretty amazing. Good luck."
Thank you.
We found the unicorn. They found their unicorn.
I know roles are hard to get, but is there an opportunity in the interview process, just as you're about to say, yes, I'll jump on board and I'll achieve these responsibilities that you're laying out, just to get more of an understanding of the rhythm and routine of the company and really what you're sinking your teeth into?
Yeah, and that's a great question because employer brand is so new, companies know what they want and they write this massive long wish list and go, wouldn't all these things be really nice? But I don't think in theory they actually know what it takes to get those results. So the questions that you should be asking 100% are, what are the resources that I have to work with to get this off the ground? Because you can't be the copywriter, the creative, the agency that does all that. So, and I think that sometimes maybe more the small to medium businesses who just, that's not what they do. They just think that you can create all this stuff magically. Now, I've made that mistake. Oh, yeah, they're young. They can do social media. When the reality is that they can't, and it actually takes quite a lot of time to do. So I think that would definitely be one question I would ask. And I would also want to know, coming into a role, who actually makes the decision on this. So is it the CEO? Is it the CMO, the head of marketing, or is it somebody else? Because as we're putting together strategies or trying to get things signed off, I think it's really important. Everyone says get stakeholder buy-in. Make sure that your stakeholders know what you're doing so you can get things off the ground. But then who are they? Because if you don't know who that is very quickly, you can wait ages to get things approved and decisions made, which can be really frustrating. I mean, you can be planning a new EVP and by the time that gets signed off, the whole company's changed. You've got a new CEO or a new management team or the brand team has launched a new brand, and then you're just left behind going, okay, well, I didn't know any of this because I wasn't connected to the right stakeholder. So I think they're two of the main things I would want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. Any last question, Brie?
I was actually really curious around then the thinking about the connection to the global. I think this is a scenario where can be a challenge, but it's more of the how do you work into that global team to ensure that kind of you are across all the things that are happening, that you can tap into the right people, and that then you kind of are getting the approvals you need to keep sure it's brand aligned from a global lens, but then still localized. Kind of
I think this is certainly what I do. I just reach out to people. Me, Brie, I did that to you. Hi, here's who I am. But find out who they are. We're lucky, obviously, everything's now virtual. So certainly our global employer brand team I can't join the calls because they're at 3 a.m. in the morning, but I'm on the Teams chat. So when people are adding content or ideas or sharing folders, I can see what's going on more globally because that can be quite a restriction being so far away. You're not in the same time zone. But certainly what I've experienced is everyone's really helpful. So, have we got any photos of pharmaceutical cleaners somewhere in an archive, and then someone will share the folder. So again, just sort of trying to figure out who the main people are, how they all come together, and then just try and sort of connect in with that.
Amazing. That's,
Don't be shy.
Complex.
The worst thing people can say is no, right?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's a fascinating conversation. A lot of people find themselves in new roles, and setting them up for success is really important. And you've given some really good advice. And for that, we're really grateful.
Thank you. Thanks, both.